All right, we're going to get started. I know many of you are spending time with your family probably for the holidays, so we're not expecting a lot of we're going to get started. Not expecting a lot of viewers, but we're going to get started. This is titled, well, there's several different titles, but the main one is, this is going to be about how we, when I say we, I particularly mean the Black community, support illegal child labor to enjoy Christmas. Now I'm going to show a couple old articles, and let me start with the reason why I'm doing this is because there are a lot of people that celebrate Christmas, and even though they don't really believe in the Jesus birth, or even if they're Christians or whatever, a lot of people still celebrate Christmas. A lot of people still spend time and money on gifts for family and different things like that, although people are kind of waking up to the history of Christmas, the origins of Christmas, so to speak. So this is kind of, I guess I want people to really think deeper and try and think deeper along the lines of why they're celebrating Christmas, what is the effect it has on the family, and what is the effect it has on the world. And a lot of things that we do, we tend to think that, well, we're not celebrating Christmas, we're just buying gifts, or, we're not celebrating Thanksgiving, we're just buying food, and we're still putting money into these holidays and into this capitalistic system, yet we're not coming up with a means on how we celebrate for ourselves. So I haven't really seen a lot of things on people celebrating Kwanzaa or anything, or different things like that. So I think the Black community is kind of at a standstill as far as people are aware of the different negative implications of Christmas, yet their children might not understand, or maybe they don't know how to explain this system to their children. Maybe their children are too young. Maybe their children are in school with other children who celebrate Christmas. And, we can remember when we were kids and how we anticipated Christmas and stayed up all night and, different things like that. So I kind of want you to get in that mind frame. And this is why I chose this date. I could have chose later today, but it's still nighttime. So I want us to get into the mind frame of being children and, waiting for Santa Claus, sitting by that Christmas tree and different things like that. And, wanting to unwrap the presents and all those different things. But we're going to go to China, and we're going to see how we get those presents, how those presents made. So this is just a short, I'm going to play just a minute of this 1-minute video entitled Santa's Workshop. I don't think there's any sound, but there's closed caption. So there is sound. Okay.
因为星期5和7点，早上是从6点半开始上班，上到晚上的12点以后有个加通宵，一个加到2点、4点。这都是迪士尼的狗仔啊，还有公仔。
När ni ska köpa någon leksak, vad tänker ni på då?
Att det ska vara rolig, att det ska vara fin.
Var tror ni att leksakerna är tillverkade? Det som gör?
i andra länder. Eller...
Tomtens verkstad. I något asiatiskt land av, av alldeles för unga barn kanske, jag vet inte.
Ja. Halloween har ju, som vi alla vet, kommit från USA. Det är ju här för att stanna. Det är ju populärt någonting annat. Och då, masker är ju en sak. Då har kinesen tänkt till, så har han lagt lite ljusdekoder i här så att det ska lysa upp.
Hur ligger lönenivåerna för de som arbetar i er produktion?
Inne i Kina, det är ju billig arbetskraft. Annars skulle alla produktion ligga där borta. Så självfallet är det så. Om det är någonting att spara och leva på äldre dag, det tror jag inte.
Hur mycket av produktionen här kommer från Kina?
Sortiment som man har till hösten så kommer 95% ifrån Kina.
In Europe, we spend more than $20,000 billion on toys and games every year. A large part of these toys are bought at Christmas time. But who makes these toys?
När jag var liten fick jag reda på att det var barn som gjorde de här leksakerna på McDonalds. Då vill inte jag ha dem längre. För att det var andra barn som gjorde det. Det var vuxna, en maskin som gjorde det. Så jag vill inte ha McDonalds längre. McDonalds-leksaker. Fast annars skulle jag fortsätta köpa dem.
In August 2000, it was revealed that one of the factories making toys for McDonald's employed child labor. The factory was situated in China, where most of the world's toys are made. We decided to go there and investigate the current conditions in the toy factories. Here in Hong Kong, we met one of those who exposed the poor working conditions at the McDonald's supplier. His name is Parry, and he has studied conditions in the toy industry for several years. This is Hong Kong.
Okay, now, as you've seen in the clip, the young boy, he didn't want toys anymore once he found out that they were being made at McDonald's. Now, this report is from 2012, and it states here that, where's that? This investigation last Christmas, so it's referring to the video where 85% of the toys are made in China, revealed about 300 workers, youth workers, were drafted to help with the holiday demand. Another investigation of a Chinese factory last year revealed that children as young as 14 were making Disney's best-selling cars, toys in preparation for the 2011 holiday. So this video is not a guilt trip video. It's not to make parents feel guilty for loving their kids. It's just to kind of raise some critical thinking where what is the price that we're willing to pay to, you know, give our children a quote unquote happy Christmas. As you just seen in the video, that child, he wasn't a teenager, I don't think, but he was able to make a conscious decision that he didn't want to play with those toys anymore once he found out they were made by children. They were not made by adults. They were made by adults, and well, they weren't made by adults and they weren't made by machines. So that's what he said. So we're gonna go back to the youth working, but we'll also talk about just the youth are not the only one making these Christmas presents, Christmas toys in China's factories. So here's an article from that 2011 investigation, and you know, there's different things in this factory. They make Disney, Lego, Mark and Spencer, different things like that. And employees worked over 140 hours overtime a month. A lot of these workers only see their children once a year. They have like a dormitory in these factories where, you know, people have to travel very far. I guess it's like an on-campus kind of living site. These people work overtime past the legal limit, but the companies make them sign up to work past overtime, past the legal overtime limit. So as you can see here, it says they were paid up to a month late. They were working with dangerous tools and machines. If you read, I'll put these articles in the link, but if you read the article, someone died. There's no OSHA training. There's no, there's no weak training or different things like that. The safety training, like there's no chemical training on the chemicals and how to deal with chemicals. So what we kind of take for granted, the safety precautions and measures that a lot of these employees take with hiring people and different things like that here in the U.S. and other parts of the world, it's not that different. Now, here's the example of the woman catching a train for 10 hours to go to the toy factory. Kids have to live with her grandparents. Now, this is, again, if this channel is for critical thinkers. We're not, we don't want to be under the assumption like, okay, well, what does that have to do with me? Well, you're buying into this system. You're supporting illegal working conditions. You're supporting, yes, these people are feeding their family, but, that has really nothing to do with you, how they choose to run their things in China. And the more that you raise your kids to have these values of expecting something that you see on TV or expecting something from Christmas or, that comes from these kind of conditions, the harder it'll be and, more unlikely it'll be that you will probably do something about it until maybe you get too fed up. And this is a Walmart official apologizing for underperforming Chinese labor slaves. It's not something we saw coming. Laments Owen Morrow, Walmart's acting international minister of youth deployment, but it's something we should have been on top of. As demand begins to outstrip production, desperate executives are working overtime, I guess no pun intended, to put more Chinese children to work and close the gap. Walmart Executive Vice President Walter Garson points in 2010, the year Walmart brought 30,000 9-year-old children at auction as the point at which things went wrong. And you finish reading this article, I'll post it in the link again. A lot of these people are claiming that, you get these small children and they can, here it is, the average 8-year-old Chinese child is small enough to easily crawl into a textile machine and remove debris that might be keeping the cutting blades from operating properly. But without enough 8-year-olds, we don't have adequate personnel to diagnose these issues as they occur. So again, we can feel like, okay, well, what does this have to do with us? How does this affect the Black community? But we need to become more globally aware, more globally conscious on where does our dollar go? Where does our dollar is not staying in the Black community. Our dollar is not circulating in the Black community. So we should definitely feel and act on these extreme conditions that we're contributing to. I mean, there's no way around it. And that's why I kind of began saying that in the beginning, you should definitely put yourself in the mind frame of these children as you being a child, these 9-year-olds that were working under these conditions. When you were 9 years old, you were anticipating Christmas. You had no idea about working in these conditions. You had no idea about working a job, period, probably at 9 years old. So this is to kind of, especially to the mothers, because the mothers, the women, Black women, they spend the majority of the money. The women, the single parent mothers and different things like that. But this is for the men also, but the women especially, because women want to feel like they're being good mothers. They want to feel like they're supporting their children. They want to make their children happy. A lot of people pick up extra jobs you know, during this time of the year just to get certain gifts and different things like that. So if we have a heart, if we're really the compassionate people, like we like to use these titles, we have to become more consciously aware of how we're spending our money. So here's a little bit more from this article I read earlier. Just this month, the Advocacy Network, the Global March Against Child Labor, led a surprise raid of a sweatshop in New Delhi. 14 children ages 8 to 14 were rescued. They were working in small, unventilated spaces for up to 15 hours a day. 15 hours a day. They weren't in school. They weren't with their grandparents. They weren't with their parents. They weren't asleep. They weren't taking nap time. They weren't watching Nickelodeon. They weren't playing outside. They were working to make Christmas presents for you. And the constant threat of violence at that, to make Christmas decorations and seasonal gifts to be sold in America and Europe. These were just 14 children of the 6 million who, according to the United States, are trafficked into labor under the threat of physical harm or physical restraint each year. So if we weren't supporting these industries, I'm not going to say they wouldn't exist, but I think if we call it time out and focus, okay, there were times we probably missed a good Christmas, or there were times we probably didn't get everything that we wanted, and, you know, we're okay about it. I think missing a Christmas, or even, you know, not getting things that you want, I don't think you hold that against people. So, you know, here's some more from the other article. The reality is that they will meet only once a year at Chinese New Year. This is a reference to the woman catching a 10-hour train ride to the toy factory. And how I was saying they lived on dormitories, and, you know, they kind of just stay there all year just making these toys for little to no money. And they're working, as you can see, 140 hours a month overtime. Some of these people weren't even paid on time. Some of them were paid a month late. So again, I think people should share this video and kind of just begin the conversation. We're going to open up these gifts tomorrow, but look at your gifts. Look at where does it come from? What does it say it's made in? Think about what it took to actually make that gift, and, you know, what went into the production, what went into what lives were sacrificed, because a lot of these people were injured, some of them died. And then it goes into this whole thing about the brands failing to pay the factories, and, you know, they're kind of going back and forth between the factories and the stores, and, you know, people basically in this instance are trying to keep their hands clean, but all the factories are certified as decent toy manufacturers by the International City Council of Toy Industries, which is supposed to police ethical standards of more than 2,400 factories that employ an estimated 1.7 million people. But SACM has accused ICTI of permitting rampant labor rights violations in factories it has certified. At the Hong Hing factory, the researcher found that the 8,000 workers put in up to 100 hours of overtime a month, far in excess of the legal maximum. Workers say they have to sign a document agreeing to work additional overtime on top of the legal maximum. So again, they can say that they're certified as decent toy manufacturers because people are signing a document agreeing to work additional overtime. So a lot of stuff that we see, fair trade, or, you know, different things, we have to sometimes look behind and investigate for ourselves. So workers complain of inadequate training with the factory machines, and last year one worker died when he fell into a machine. They said there were frequent injuries and concerns over the chemicals used. They're not educating these people. They're just basically using these people. So I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here, but we have to begin to think for ourselves. We have to, when you look at these videos of people rushing into stores and people knocking over people, walking over people just to get not just these toys. Of course, those people are getting TVs and stuff, but a lot of those people are shopping for their kids also. And I mean, this is what people are going crazy over is, you know, toys that are being made in these horrendous conditions that are I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose of Christmas. If Christmas is about the holidays, if it's about family, if it's about children being happy, then why are we supporting these horrendous conditions in these toy companies just so our kids can play with their toy that's going to get messed up, or play with their toy that, you know, will only last for 6 months to a year or something. So at the On-Tie Toy Company, the researcher found that most of the 1,500 workers were aged between 30 and 50. So this is a different factory than the one I read about earlier that was basically talking about the 14-year-old being the youngest working there. In this article, they're talking about the 8-year-olds working in the factories because they were small enough to remove debris and crawl into a textile machine to remove debris that might be keeping the cutting blades from operating properly. So I'm gonna wrap this up shortly. The pay is 110, I think that's pounds a month. I think this is a German, London article. But wages were paid a month late in breach of labor law. But this is the same, obviously the same place that said they were certified as a decent toy manufacturers, which is supposed to police ethical standards by the International Council of Toy Industry. So anyways, they were paid a month late, and during the peak season, summer season, workers could make up to $240 a month, including overtime. But a typical working day during the peak season starts at 8 a.m. and does not end until 10 p.m. That's over 14 hours. Workers routinely put in 6-day weeks, but if the factory is busy, there are no days off. Workers complained that they were banned from talking to one another on the production line. They were fined up to £5. I think that I could be wrong. If they went to the toilet without applying for an off-duty permit. So these people were fined for going to the bathroom. And this is who we are. I mean, you think about it as a parent, the worrying and the amount of overthinking and analyzing on how we're going to get these gifts and these toys that these people are going through just to make for us. I mean, it's really ridiculous when you think about it. They reported regular burns from soldering irons and electric shocks from old hair dryers used to set glue, along with concerns about the effect on their health of unmarked chemicals they have to work with. The law requires the chemicals to be identified and for workers to be instructed in what to do in case of an accident. Up to 10 workers share each 20 square meters dormitory room. So this is why they only see the family members sometimes once a year on the Chinese New Year, which is fitted with bunk beds. Dozens share the toilet, and the outside of the building is piled deep with rubbish, which is home to rats. So I'm not going to take up too much of you guys' time. It's just a short video on just a critical, independent thinking on how we are spending our money on quote-unquote holidays, and how we really need to rethink. I mean, we could talk about which I might do a video on later, we could talk about the origins of Christmas and the origins of Thanksgiving and all these holidays, but really even on a financial and a practical and a moral level, on a spiritual level, I mean, there's nothing good about this. We just get a day off. I mean, really, that's what we're enjoying. So that's it. And stay tuned. Let me know what you think in the comments. All right.